Often we maybe feel melted down. A couple episodes ago, I dealt with you about the cancer of the soul. When you're hustling in your business, but yet your personal, emotional, and spiritual life is just melting down. And we've kind of done this circle ago, but this is episode EA 159. Filling your cup on Empower Your Pattern 2.0. Hi, I'm Jimi Hendrix. Member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Success, Confidence, and Thrive Coach. I wish to let you know that there are patterns to help you receive more, help you live a better and extraordinary life right now. I also believe that there are spiritual and temporal tips to help you overcome the adversities in the everyday life. So if you come with me, I will show you these patterns. Get ready. Let's go. Once it's finished with the intro, I will. Okay, guys, here we are. I'm recording this way early with schedule because, well, many of you know that March 10th through the 12th is going to be the 10th through 11th is going to be the Elevate Convention. So I'm going to try to get some podcasts recorded early so I can focus some on the business as well. We all know what goes on in our life. So much distractions and defiance in this culture. People just, especially politically and spiritually, pulling us in so many different ways that it can be easy to just feel so empty. I think about what happened 6 months ago. You know, COVID had hit, and then, believe it or not, you know, being a blind guy and not able to see to get out and drive, other than church and Toastmasters, I basically sit around the house. And then one fateful day I went to Toastmasters, and you remember Connie from episode EA 20, the one who did the introduction to the episode Key Lime Pie. She introduced me to ACN and then repurposing. But now, guys, it's like, I want you to sit down with me and maybe have some cake or candy or something that you can enjoy in a decent beverage. I got some mint tea with me here this evening. I'm going to introduce a good friend of mine, a thought leader that I've discovered from Toastmasters. Now, we know as entrepreneurs, you know, even some of the best people have mental health breakdowns. And if you tell somebody that is in business, in entrepreneurship, you got to go at it, go, crush it. Yes, you can do that for a time. But if you don't take care of yourself, and if you don't pace yourself, you're going to shut down. Remember two episodes ago. Cancer of the soul? The cancer of the soul is when you pursue money and business just for the sake of it, but yet you're declining spiritually. You're declining in other areas of your life. Now, I'm not saying, you know, majorly scale back. My friend Robert here, he has a better way here that I'm going to tell you about. But really and truthfully, I mean, come on. We can crush it all we want, but we've got to be able to fill our cups. Because many of us, we pour ourselves into so many people's lives, and yet we feel empty. I'm going to be honest with you, I felt bad. And it wouldn't hurt for us. This series, Enterprise in America, you know, was born of adversity. Because I had to repurpose. COVID forced us to repurpose. And some people who might be skeptical may say, well, the new Dream is the old one. Well, maybe it is, but it's refurbished. Guys, here in a minute, I'm gonna ask Robert a few questions here about what you can do to fill your cup. Because I think about a book I read when I was going through marriage counseling when I was married to my ex-wife, and they were talking about the love tank, and if your love tank is empty, you can't give what you don't have. And see, that's something in my 30s, 40s, and even in my early 50s, I was crying out, you can't give what you don't have. And even with all the warning signs. So guys, here I am talking to a good friend of mine. A good thought leader named Robert. Robert, could you please explain the concept of why we need to be filling our cup?
Hi, my name's Rob. I go by Rob. The concept and the purpose and the reason and the fact that you need to is someone I know very well is close to me. Really, he just, a selfless person, but he did everything for everybody but himself. He ended up letting his health go down. His mind just drifted. He got to the point to where one day he just blacked out driving. And luckily, at some point, miles down the road, he woke up and he was done. Then, near misses like that, that's in the energy industry, construction, oil field, all that. If something just almost happens, it's called a near miss. So I say he had near miss after near miss after near miss until it was a direct hit. A direct hit, which rendered him no good to himself, which meant if he wasn't good to go, he couldn't help anybody. So he couldn't help himself or others, and he came back from that. So, Jimmy, what else would you like to ask?
You think about it. I think about some of the incidents that happened to me. Breaking my leg. I was on top of the world. Oh, no way, this is bothering me. I'm confident. I got this. Phil broke my leg. And, it's like me before I collapsed in 2019. I was like, look at me. I'm the tough dude. I'm tight and tough. And to be honest with you, he just reminded me of something. So, Robert, why is it that our culture calls us to give and give and give, but don't necessarily seem to care that much about people's mental health? Is it stigma, or is it also maybe just the culture and the times?
Culture, times, and stigma. And it is mostly stigma, which is within the culture. It kind of like you see movies, and if they show somebody with as they portray and say in the movie mental health issues or whatever, that guy is bipolar. He's crazily autistic. He's a psychopath. There are different, I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a flunky that's read a book or two and came from the University of Street Knowledge and Hard Labor. But I've read a book or two. So the thing is, there are different derivatives. All the movies, the news you watch on TV, hear on the radio, say this person created this heinous crime or this happened, everything else. And if they talk about investigations, well, this person had, mental illness X or mental illness Z, etc. And there's just there's so much into it that no one really knows about unless you deal with it yourself or you are in the mental health field. So there are a lot of people who are, let's say bipolar, let's say ASPD, ASD, which ASD is autistic spectrum disorder. ASPD is antisocial personality disorder, which that is derivative of typically either it's genetic and they went through abuses and saw things all through the developmental years of their childhood. And they went through trauma, abuse of some sort, torture, yada, yada during those years, and their brains formed differently. And the more they were subjected to it as they came up in the world, they have different things, like psychopathy, sociopathy, even bipolar people. It's not a nailed down science. Let me put this into perspective. We would not have some of the best firefighters, policemen, hostage negotiators, war, people that are in the military that are very skilled at doing their job and doing things you don't want to know or hear about, and then come home and still be able to maintain a family life and not have any, sort of disorder like, it's not a disorder. Let's call it a hindrance and a very unfortunate handicap, which is known as PTSD and the like. So that's those people. That's the people that you can call and they're ready to go and they get the job done. Now, the reason being is people like that, some of them, for whatever reason, and things that happen to them, their emotions, they're different. So it doesn't affect them like most of us. Most of us just couldn't fathom walking into a burning building calmly, assessing the situation while it's utter chaos around you, not worrying about what happens to them. All their goal is to save whoever needs to be saved, whether it be a cat, dog, person, baby. That's the kind of people that can go in and do that very systematically because of how their brains work. So the stigma is because all you see in movies, TV, everything else, if they have these disorders, they're vicious killers or they're crazy and do all kinds of things, to people they know and themselves. And, there are people that around these days that do, and that's all you hear about. And it's such a bad stigma because I advocate for mental health. The mental health field is so underrated from the general public because I'll tell you what, the people who put themselves through school because they cared, anywhere from 4 to 12 years. Psychiatrists will go for anywhere from 8 to 12 years of schooling and experience to do what they do, and they don't get near enough credit. You think psychiatrist, that's a shrink. No. Psychiatrist is not a shrink. That's just what they call some of them. There are good ones, there are bad ones, so I'm not going to try to say that, anyone you go to is going to be the guy you want to talk to. But they do know what they're doing. They're the people that help people like that, because people with those, you think, oh, they're crazy. There's a reason, I promise. Because most of them, if they realize what they have, and if they don't, it's even worse. They're just trying to cope. They're trying to figure out why they're different. They get agitated. People make fun of them. And, kind of like these school shootings. Somebody goes in and shoots up a school. Oh, that guy's crazy. He's a lunatic. He's a psychopath. No, maybe he was abused and bullied to the point that he developed a condition that him and nobody else knew about, and just had like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, so what is known as a psychotic break, or in a state of psychosis, or even mania driven by trauma, whether it be verbal, physical, both, and environmental altogether. Bullying, that's why we talk about bullying. That's why it's a big thing now, because it causes people to do that. It does. If enough people pick on particular people like that, especially young, because you notice it's school shootings, the support just isn't there. It hasn't been. And it's just a stigma that I would like any of the listeners here to understand, is that if somebody has issues, if somebody's socially awkward, they might be autistic. They may not be able to process emotions like, what they call a neurotypical person that does not have chemical imbalances and things like that, because a lot of mental health conditions, breaking it down all the way to physiology, is a chemical imbalance in the brain and the body. So, that's why you go to a psychiatrist if you have these issues. The medicine they try on you, and I say try on you because you're real lucky if the first thing they prescribe works. They give the most educated, experienced thought in the research and the meds they have to choose from, and they give you that, and you try until you and your psychiatrist decide, what makes you feel the best and helps you function the best. So think of that. It's not their fault. They don't choose to be crazy. They don't choose to be socially awkward. Autism people, you ever go up to people, talk to them, they seem rude? Some are, and then there's some, they're either really shy or autistic and is just not able to even acknowledge, your gesture. So think about that. Don't always assume that everyone is just rude. Have some empathy. I suggest reading a lot of books on emotional intelligence. There are books and books and studies and YouTubes and TED Talks on emotional intelligence. I think it would be good to look into. If you have not read anything about it, read it. It will help you with your interactions with everyday people and people, especially people with mental health issues. Let's not call it issues. Let's not even call it issues. Let's call it mental health difficulties, because I promise they're having difficulty functioning, and the more compassionate people can be with them and the more patient people can be with them, the better things will be. If you know somebody like this, and they're low budget, low income, or you don't have a whole lot, seek out your local MHMR. It stands for mental health, mental retardation, and see if they know of resources you can use to find a therapist at the least. So I'm going to hand it back to Jimmy and let him ask some more questions, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
He is, I tell you what, he's just a fountain of wisdom. We might make this quite a bit longer. One thing for sure that we do need to have more compassion. And, those of us who have mental illness, and we're going out and doing things all day for people and blessing the lives of people. And yet there's so much demands on our time. Even for me, at least, I have suffered from bipolar depression with psychotic features. Those are quite a bit of challenges. And so, Robert, how can we use our days to fill our cups, to keep them from being empty?
All right, technical difficulties there for a second. My apologies. Alrighty. Well, filling your cup, like I said earlier, there was someone I know that's very close to me that was not doing that. It's terrible. And one thing I do want to say, let me just give you a rundown. Let me give you a perspective that you can tie to yourself and everyone around you. Just take a listen and think about this. So I'd like to share a story about this friend of mine. And if at least one person here listening, if it only touches one of you, fantastic. That's part of the goal. So, and the other part of the goal is to assist in what a lot of everything in your everyday life, everything in your everyday life, as soon as, safety, if you are in an industry, that preaches safety, which is good that they do. They talk about safety. You need to do this, watch out for that. Don't use this that way, wear your proper protective equipment, everything else. But, so they call that PPE. What do you think the best PPE is? A little hint. It is nothing you can put on. It is nothing physical you can put on. It is psychological. It's the attitude you put on in the morning before you even get out of bed, or when you get out of bed. Depends upon, when you come to, you may need that first cup of coffee first. I know how that is. So when you do that, the first thing you listen to in the morning, the first thing you look at, your stimulation, whether it be social media, a book, the news, music, anything like that, especially the first things you hear in the morning will really cement your day. What kind of day you decide to have that day, I promise you're going to have it. So if you decide, I don't feel good, today's going to suck, I bet your day's going to suck. But you say, hey, this is going to be a good day, and doesn't matter what happens, we're going to make the best of it. So let's look at it this way. To be effective as a person for yourself, for everyone around you, and like I said, totally safe. The first thing we have to do before anything else to take care of ourselves completely, we can't safely or effectively contribute to anything we're trying to do, which is trying to pour from an empty cup. You just can't pour from an empty cup. If you have not put on your figurative good attitude pants, shirt and shoes, socks, underwear, and favorite hairstyle, I'm bald, so I put on my favorite bald head lotion. We'll just call that my good attitude lotion. So, sorry. Had a little bug in my throat. When we get to that point, we and everyone around us are in great danger when we don't take care of ourselves, when we don't put that good attitude on in the morning. If we put the wrong attitude on in the morning, it's like going to a beach somewhere on the equator with no suntan lotion and nothing but a Speedo, and then sitting out there for 10 hours going back crispy. So if you put the wrong attitude on, that's going to happen. You're going to come back crispy and you're going to hurt, and that day is going to be suck. I mean, just straight suck. It's going to suck if you don't put that right attitude on, that correct attitude, that positive attitude on in the morning. You have to be realistic but positive. Always look for the lessons learned and what is the best. So my good friend, whenever you put on the wrong attitude, he let his cup go dry. I mean, we're talking shop vac, pulling the moisture out of the bottom of that cup. And when we get to that point, the possibility is real that we have unknowingly and unintentionally become a danger to ourselves and everyone around us. I mean, we could kill ourselves and those around us. Like, he was driving, fell asleep. He could have killed a family of 4, 2 families of 4, someone who just got married, and would have totally done it unintentionally and would have ended up with a involuntary manslaughter charge. But luckily he woke up and finally kept going until he finally did get hit. So due to that, it knocked him right down, and he wasn't effective for himself or anyone else for a little while. He had come to the realization that he must do something and do it fast, because the last thing he ever wanted to do or wants to do is put anyone in danger. So he did it fast. He'd been a book reader for many aspects of life. Most of his life. But by doing it fast this time, he did it by relentlessly continuing to read books, but this time in analogy about filling the cup first so he can fill everyone in his life and on his team's cups as well. Books explaining methods of taking care of himself first by taking complete care of his mind and body, eating the right foods, resting properly, continuing to educate himself, vigorous exercise. I do want to talk about vigorous exercise. If you have been diagnosed or suffer with ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. My gosh, I cannot talk today. My apologies, all of you. One of the biggest causes, part of them, there's more things, is ADD and ADHD is caused by a lack of lactic acid in your body and brain. And when you work out, when you exercise, whether you do 15, 20 minutes on the elliptical or do a full workout, the harder the workout you do, and press your muscles and push them. And then once you're done, you stretch your whole body, stretch your legs, everything else. That produces an abundance of lactic acid from your muscles and some other physiological things. I'm not a doctor. And that part of your mind just soaks that up. And you are laser focused. I do it. I work out for a minimum of an hour every morning, and I am focused. The mornings I can't work out, I'm a scatterbrain. I have ADD. Kind of wish I had the hyperactivity. I have to make myself have energy. But anyway, so going from that, vigorous exercise, and let's say you're handicapped, something like that. Act like you're punching somebody. Pretend you're just nailing a punching bag. Just fight the air. That will get your your blood moving. If it's due to a bad back as well, upper back, just take and, just do circles with your hands just as much as you can until you get tired of it. That'll get the blood moving. That'll produce some of that to help you out. So for the effectiveness of the safety of my buddy and everybody around him, he had to fill his, I stuttered, I do apologize. But by doing that, by filling his cup, and to be effective for the people around him, because he's a helper. He is one of those people that will give the shirt off of his back, and unfortunately, a true empath, which means he understands others and will do anything for them, to the point he'd rather see them survive than instead of him. And that's just how he is. So he and I had a talk, and I said, you have got to take care of yourself. And he said, but everybody is more important. I said, how can you let everybody be more important and show them that they are by not being able to do anything for them. And that's the position you're in. So I explained it to him. And to help him realize that he can take care of everyone else by taking care of himself. And back to the cup analogy, we must do it by filling our cups to the point that it's overflowing to the point where we can easily fill everyone else's cups with the overflow. Keeping our cup full to the point it is overflowing, let everybody else's cups catch the overflow. So, I'm going to give a quick prelude into something that can fill our cups. To add some weight to the idea I'm sharing, in which the dividends from doing so will, in essence, will add to everyone else's cup as well as yours. For anyone that has mastered this, I applaud and admire you, because it took him a long time, it took me a long time to do so, which includes eliminating distractions. If something is distracting you, don't start practicing delayed gratification. Look it up on YouTube. There's some great things on delayed gratification without going into that. So in my opinion, one of the great minds of business dynamics and leadership is a man and author by the name of Simon Sinek. If you haven't heard of him and get bored sometime, look him up, especially on YouTube. He has a lot of content in there, and for anybody that kind of has a little, snarky, rebellious streak, even though Simon helps businesses, his thing is helps teams, businesses, he's a bit snarky. He will poke fun at the typical business dynamic and culture of a lot of corporate companies without saying any of them. You can hear what he's saying in part of his books. But he talks about a chemical in our bodies naturally, that naturally produce a chemical called dopamine. That's one of the feel-good chemicals our body produces from gratification. For example, in today's world, we have so many sources of instant gratification that it's what we crave now. I mean, Amazon, okay? Amazon, 2 days, it's there. We want to check, and see what everybody's doing. Pull up Facebook right then. You get a notification on your phone, a check, text, anything just goes ding or buzz. Every time you do that, that urgency, to check, I got to check that. I got to check that. Your body kind of creates a mini withdrawal real quick. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, that's a shot of dopamine. That's your body giving you a shot of dopamine and some other chemicals, but dopamine is the main one. And when you do, it feels good, right? You check it. Oh, yeah, he liked my comment. He liked my post. Or, oh, good, she's okay. He's okay, etc. And that's why so many around the world are addicted to their phones and other devices that provide some sort of stimulation. Another good example is when you do something great and someone, especially a close family member or a supervisor, tells you, good job, man. Feels good, doesn't it? Somebody saying, good job, you did good today. Feels great, don't it? That's dopamine. Many people are not addicted to playing on their phones recreationally. They're actually addicted to the constant flow of their body's physiological secretion of dopamine and other chemicals from external sources. How about giving yourself the ultimate and original source of a good, well-deserved dose of dopamine to your brain from your own internal drivers? I mean, how do you think people before the invention of TV, much less all the cool stuff we've got now, they got their doses of dopamine from being creative, by working, a job well done, etc. So, from doing an excellent job for your own satisfaction without the need for anyone else but you to validate your efforts, if you don't already, and even if you do, aspire and commit to doing absolutely everything, each day, to the best of your ability, no matter what it is. Push yourself to do your absolute best at everything. Just don't do it for do it for somebody else. If your inspiration is, so and so will be really happy with you, or will think you look good, or what have you. But do it for yourself, because no matter how hard you work, if you work for yourself, if you compete with yourself and no one else, doing that and constantly competing with yourself to get better from the person you were an hour ago, day ago, a month ago, etc. I promise, if you are competitive, just by improving yourself, you will go leaps and bounds past all of the people that are not putting the work and self-educating on what they need or want to know. So, put in the effort, put in the work. Not many great things come from not breaking a sweat physically and or psychologically. I say that so you can give yourself true satisfaction every day. Because even though you're doing it for yourself, everyone around you will end up benefiting from you as well. They'll benefit from it as well. Remember that doing your absolute best doesn't mean you won't fail at something. If you failed at something, good. Don't feel like a heel. Don't feel stupid. Anybody that feels like you're stupid or an idiot for failing, I promise, is the idiot, not you. Put the good mindset on. Use the mindset of, that's all right. That's okay. I'm going to do it better next time, because if anybody doesn't know who Thomas Edison is, he's the guy that invented the light bulb. And he once said, I'm probably pretty sure it was not this round number, but Thomas Edison said, I have not failed. I have simply found 1,000 ways that do not work. So, just make sure you fail forward, not backwards. If needed, sidestep, but don't step backwards. Do a sidestep. But if you fell forward and you lean forward, when you fall, even your hands that you reach out to catch you is further than where you were before. So that gives you a lesson to learn. Do this. So when your head hits the pillow, head rest, or sleep or berth to get some sleep, depending on if you're a truck driver, have to sleep out of your truck sometimes, or the pillow in your bed. Even if everything that day didn't go as planned, if you honestly, absolutely, if you did everything that day to the best of your ability and gave your best, you will get the satisfaction and the ultimate dose of what feels good. If you will give yourself that feeling of satisfaction, you can lay your head down and say, man, I nailed it today. Let's get some rest and fill the cup back up. So, question for all of you. How are you going to keep your cup full? Here you go, Jimmy.
I have to be quite honest with you. It's similar to something I learned from the book, Feeling Good, The New Mood Therapy, by, I believe the author's name is David D. Burns, MD. I had a friend of mine named Jim Bob, who I knew for 25 years. And those of you in Pat around that listen for a while, you know that friends of mine who helped me grow so far, but refused to grow further with me, I've given pseudonym names. Well, Jim Bob gave me that name of this type of cognitive therapy blog where you write down your thoughts and then you challenge them with, like a rational response. Well, I did some changing. And a lot of it has to do with, my training as a good old Baptist boy and my training as a Latter-day Saint. I call the cognitive therapy blog, it's called a Critterotomy. Because if we don't watch what we put into our spirits, that's why Rob is right. He says, you get up in the morning, watch what you put in your spirit first thing in the morning. In fact, watch what you put in your spirit, period. Because, if you get news, and yeah, I got a show where I commentate on the news. And to be honest with you, I'm at a point where I'd like to take a break. Because so much of it is just negative crap. If you listen to stuff and participate in things that are going to empty your cup, that's not going to help you. Okay? That's not going to help you at all, and you know it. You know it. Now, listen to me. And listen to me real good. Each of you know. There are several episodes where I talk about this cognitive therapy method, and I use it on days when I'm having a bad day to rebound, along with a self-coaching method that the Lord gave me when I first started podcasting back in 2018, and it's called the CAP method: choose, act, and pursue happiness. Many of you know about that. Had to pause and gauge a little bit. But you see, guys, here's the thing. We've been hitting it hard talking about, entrepreneurship and how to elevate and be a leader and stuff. But as you've seen in EA 57, there is such a thing as breakdown. There is such a thing as breakdown. And the one thing I learned when I attended the Landmark Forum in Dallas in 2014 is you need to learn to use breakdown as a time to build up, to make the impossible possible. And you might say, well, Jimmy, what are you talking about? Look around you. Look at what COVID's done, the ravages of COVID. Many people have been forced to reinvent themselves. And I can't say it's been all bad. My good friend Bishop Dave, he announced around this time last year that he was moving to Utah. By late May, he was gone. And here I was, kind of tooling around for 2.5 months. 3.5 months. Just wondering, what's going to happen to me? Where's my purpose? And it's kind of like where, that's the cancer of the soul. You've been busting it for other people. But you don't even know how to step into your purpose. And when I came to Toastmasters, when we started meeting in person, and my good friend Connie came, as many of you know, she got me interested in ACN. Because you can tell when people are crushing it, makes a difference. But then, one thing I've discovered as I've done this business is even as entrepreneurs, you need balance. You remember, I don't know if you know, when I began forming this Enterprise in America series, there was a lot of adversity in my mind. December 2022, there was a lot of adversity going on. I was scared what was going to happen to me because of some decisions going on between me and my family. I wanted to step into my purpose, and I didn't want anything to get in my way. But the one thing I've had to learn is this: balance. Because, you can sit there and complain, you can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. But here's the answer. You filled your cup. You filled your cup. It goes back to what I said in EA episode 1 on New Year's Day. How bad do you want it? Well, if you want it bad enough, you've got to use balance. And then when you are doing your entrepreneurial business, that's when you give it all you got. You do your absolute best. When I was in high school, my granddad moved to a little farm outside of Abilene, Texas. And I came to see him one weekend, sickly, not doing too good. And I was telling him about how I was struggling in the 10th grade. And he turned to me and he said, James, son, you do your best. The rest will take care of itself. I want you to think about that. Really do. Rob, if there was one piece of advice for the last 3 minutes, if I could, that you would give somebody saying about maybe 2 words that could help people that are frustrated but need to do their best.
Jimmy, when you say frustrated, or frustrated with, I do want to ask that question so we can clarify exactly what you're asking.
Frustrated with the business, the life, the purpose?
If you are, have faith. And, we're talking about keeping the cup full. Have your faith in who your higher power is. I always call it in the universe. Because regardless of your faith, and your belief system, it's all in the universe. So I'm going to say universe. But have faith in yourself. It does not matter how spiritual you are. You must have faith in yourself. Put as much effort of that faith into yourself as well. If you struggle with self-confidence, I promise you would be surprised if you just went out there and gave it your all. And I'm going to tell you what, I promise, there's going to be people that are going to laugh at you. There's people that are going to roll their eyes at you. You know what? I find that funny when they do it at me. Because remember the Thomas Edison quote that I said? He'd never failed. He found 1,000 ways that didn't work. But he invented that light bulb, didn't he? We've got light bulbs in all of our houses and everywhere, don't we? He still invented that light bulb, even if there was 1,000 ways that he found that did not work, not 1,000 ways that he failed. So try and fail forward. Remember that. Who really cares what anybody else thinks about you? The only people you really need to think about you are your loved ones and the people that send you your invoices, sign your paycheck. You kind of need to impress them every now and then. But if you're an entrepreneur, who really cares what you think other than the people that are your customers, clients, etc.? And you can design what they think. Be friendly. Be positive. There are areas to learn charisma. I had a boss that was the biggest introvert you ever saw, but he learned charisma. And I'm going to tell you what. He was probably, I'd have to say he was the best supervisor and manager and leader I've ever seen. And he used charisma. He was very understanding. He was very direct, very fair. And it goes a long way. So do that. Have faith in yourself is what I'm saying. Get out there and make people laugh. Get out there and make people roll their eyes. Because there's a author by David Goggins, just look him up. He says, in street terms, haters are the best fuel. Which means the more people laugh, the more people roll their eyes. It's your idea, it's your plan, it's your business dynamic, your model. Good. That's more haters. That's more fuel. That's more drive to do what you want to do. Follow your dreams. They're not impossible. Anybody that says that, you either don't need them in your life at all, or you need to distance yourself and only talk to them when needed to. Because really, I would rather aim for the stars. I would rather aim for the antenna on the top of the Empire State Building and miss than aim for the 3rd floor and hit. I mean, come on. Because if you aim higher and you miss, you eventually get good and you hit that star. You hit that antenna on the top of the Empire State Building because you practiced you tried, you failed, you adjusted your scope, your figurative scope or literal, and you got it. Keep trying. Don't aim for the second or third floor and hit, and that's all you hit. And remember, be very cognizant of who you idolize, because you might just become just like them. So, if you idolize somebody that is mediocre, you're going to be mediocre. If you idolize somebody that is successful, that does not worry about, anybody that doesn't approve, I promise there's people that did, or he wouldn't be successful in business. You can too. So, have faith. Have faith in yourself. You can do it. You can. And I'm going to tell you something. You are going to get discouraged. It's not a matter of if, you're going to. It's a matter of when. And if you ever feel like you're a failure, do not adopt the victim mindset. Anytime you consider yourself a victim of anything, you're committing psychological suicide. Self-pity, probably the worst vice, if you will, say like drugs or tobacco or something like that. Self-pity is the worst vice, because it will destroy you, and it will destroy everything around you, even unknowingly. Pity will kill you. If you get discouraged, read books. Even if you only read a chapter a day, a page a day, find books on what you want to learn. Business, emotional intelligence, negotiation. Have faith in yourself. Educate yourself. And anybody who disapproves, give them the figurative finger. So, just think of that, and that is my advice. Here you go, Jimmy.
Well said, folks. Well said. And with that, I hope that your life is blessed beyond compare, and that you can achieve your dreams. Remember, rule number 1 of Pattern Realm is love and believe in yourself, because these are the patterns God set. Hope you enjoyed watching Empower Your Pattern 2.0. If you like what you hear, join Pattern Realm. Until next time, don't just sit there and take it. Build your dreams so you can take it. Do what others don't so you can be what others won't. And do what others won't so you can have what others can't. Choose, act, and pursue happiness. Please share this with Mama San, Papa San, and everyone. And remember, have faith, and God bless every single one of you. God bless you.